Okay, I'd like to welcome the 1980 state champions from Little Falls, Minnesota, back to Little Falls for a brief little show that we can talk about the old days. I guess we have to look at that now. But the first thing I have to ask is, who paid who off yesterday at the Fab golf tournament to have your table win so many gifts? I've never ever seen anybody pull things out of the hat and had one table win. Didn't you win a necklace?
I got it on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there, right there.
I
It's
did, and
incredible.
a gift card.
Okay.
I won 2.
Well, anyway, that wasn't part of the script, but
I didn't win anything.
I didn't even golf
got to be
well.
all the
Okay.
numbers around my tickets
Yes.
were
Well,
winners.
some people have to come in second place.
Yeah.
That's us. There we go. But a big welcome to the
Only-
1980 Girls Basketball Championship team. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be a part of this. I thank Mark and Dave for allowing me to do this. So to get started, I think the big thing is for us to first off introduce ourselves, and we can start right over there.
I'm Tina Keller. I wore number 2021, and I played point guard.
And played it well.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet. Peggy?
Urbanski, and I was 30 and 31, and I played in 4 years, guard and forward and a little center.
All-around player.
Yes. Leeanne Grosso, aka Big Bird. And my number was 52 and 53, and I played center. I'm Betty Spillum Elliott, and I was number 42 and 43, and I was an off guard or forward.
And in 1980, we represented what year, what class? I mean, were you all seniors in 1980?
Nope, 2 seniors.
Two seniors,
seniors.
junior, sophomore.
Bosie, Mary Vosen, we forgot to
Okay.
introduce her. She's
Okay.
number 44, 45. Unfortunately, her flight got canceled and couldn't join us, but she was a junior.
Yes, same as me. Bosie and I were the same age.
And we'll
Yes.
come back to Miss Vosen. Is it
Yes.
still Miss Vosen or
Lost.
Glost? Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll come back to her, and you can. I know you have some things that she wanted to share. So
Mhm.
And I was the only sophomore.
you're the only
I
sophomore.
had to get that
Baby.
in, because I'm going to plug my sophomore teammates when I get a chance.
There you go.
Mhm.
You have to. So as the first real question today, besides introductions, how did you get involved in basketball, and who are your earliest influences that you can remember? Who are the people in your life that really kind of said, basketball is the thing you should take a look at, and regardless of how good you were at the time, but you obviously stuck with it and had tremendous success. But how'd you get started in basketball? We can start with Tina.
I was looking through an old article, and I realized that my mom had a lot to do with it. Because when I was younger, I was very much a bookworm. I would just sit and read and read and read all the time. It was very frustrating for my mom. It's like, you got to get your nose out of the book. It's like, okay. So she talked to my 5th grade teacher, and my 5th grade teacher just said, Ann Norris said, just let her do whatever she wants to do. And in 7th grade, I decided basketball was kind of fun. And I read a book about basketball. And then 7th grade was also 75 state championship. And I was so thrilled earlier. I got to see Doug Fluff again, right?
Yes.
And I really liked Doug Fluff. He was the point guard on that team. He was a great player. And it was like, this looks like a lot of fun. And it really was a lot of fun to play. I remember going to some open gyms, and Peg always got to play with the boys, and I'd be off shooting on the side saying, you got to get better so they'll let you play. So that was
You were
probably,
driven at a young age.
that was probably my origin story for basketball.
Great. Peg.
I'd have to say, going back into elementary, and I'm going to give Dave Brooks a little plug there, when we started playing in elementary, the old sideline basketball, if anybody remembers that. You got to throw the ball, and if you got to play, but you also had the sidelines were full of people, and you could pass it up the sideline and get it to the other end just as fast. So, it was kind of a fun thing, and that kind of interests me. And I'm not a reader like Tina is, so, and I didn't have any, and I only had brothers around me, so my brother and I would play all the time in the by the garage or by somebody. Where's Peg at? Well, she's out shooting baskets, and then pretty soon, where's Peg at? She's at the golf course, you know. So that's about all I kind of did for. And then in 8th grade, I played under Magnuson or Johnson now. That was the only year I played basketball. I wanted money. I had paper route, so I wanted money instead. I wanted a new bike, and so I did that, but I was always doing something. And like I said, you know, open gyms, go there. And then I was Jerry Cool's manager for his 8th grade boys. So if there wasn't enough boys to play, I got to get in there and play with them. So you got to be mean, because they're going to push you around. So that's. But then you get into the high school, you play against with Leeanne. You don't have to. You get an elbow in the head if you. So yeah, so we all kind of had our fun things, but that's about all I used to do is play basketball, shoot baskets, and play golf.
Okay, well, me, I didn't go till 8th grade for basketball, and thanks to Mr. Lager and Jill Brooks, who were teachers there at the middle school. Lager taught math with my dad, so he was always asking him, you gotta get her out, you gotta get her out, and bugging him. And then Jill Brooks also too, and thank goodness they made me want to play, but my best friend was Melanie Melby, and she had been playing for years, so it was easy to get on out there and play, and I guess it worked out just great. So I thank them every day. And the same with Dave Brooks. I remember playing sideline basketball. That was very fun. So that's kind of how it got me going, and then you just played with all these guys and girls and pick up games and spent my whole life actually.
I've always been a tomboy playing sports with the neighborhood boys. We had mostly boys in the neighborhood, and so I was always very active and athletic. And you know, my dad was actually a math teacher as well, but he was in the high school with Al Bauman and Jerry Cool, and you know, basketball was really big in that, you know, when the boys won, and you know, it was encouraged more in the junior high. And Brad Lugger was a huge cheerleader. He encouraged me. He was just always very energetic, and I have to say he really pushed me to get better and to work hard, and so we were just fortunate to have really strong coaches and leaders that we were able to have as role models. And obviously, as these ladies are older, you know, I was fortunate to have the opportunity to see them play and get the opportunity to play with them. So that's how I got involved.
It drives itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does.
And like you said,
I was going to say, I think we probably should remember Title IX, because Title IX, you know, changed everything in '72, because now schools had to seriously think about providing opportunities for young girls. And I think this will go into the next question a little bit, but I think Coach Cool really put the girls on an equal footing with the boys. It's like, we're gonna share gym time. We're gonna, you know, we're not gonna always have the late practice.
yes.
We're going to share gym time. We're going to do things right for these young ladies, and I think
Yes.
that makes a big,
And we're gonna
big
sweat
difference.
and work hard,
Yeah.
and we're gonna, you know, not be, you know, girlish. I hate to say it that way, but you know, we're gonna be competitive, and I think that was a key aspect as well, giving us that opportunity, and we all, you know, took it and ran with it.
And-
You look at, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and we're of the age where we hang out with people that aren't too much older than us women, and they'll talk about they didn't have a basketball team in their high school yet, right? They couldn't play basketball.
Yeah.
Maybe they could go out for track because you had the track for the boys team and you didn't really get in their way, but team sports weren't an option for just a few years
Right,
ahead of
GRA or
us.
something. They
Yeah,
had
I
to.
mean, we,
You
We're lucky.
look at,
We were lucky.
from 71, 72, you look at the beginning of Title IX and how girls basketball, women's basketball had improved. You got to the 90s. I mean, you know, we're talking 9 years or whatever, and then all of a sudden we're where we're at right now with women's basketball as an example. It is grown leaps and bounds, and yes, you're right. That's the first place that you have to be thankful is that you had the opportunity, and then, you know, legislators followed through and gave up the the monies that it needed
Yeah.
to have those programs.
Yes, absolutely.
We all remember sharing the gym. I mean, as a coach forever and ever, and
Yes.
as a player
Yeah.
that sat on the end of the bench, but that's another story. We remember late practice, we remember early practice, and you know what, I was always jealous in the later part of my career is you look at these schools that have built huge, great, big facilities to where everybody gets home by dinner time.
Yeah.
And you know, unfortunately, we still haven't gotten to that point, but that's my little plug about facilities. Speaking of facilities, and you were talking about Brad Lager, and I want to start out with, in 1976, Peg, you said Jerry Cool started in Little Falls. I know that
Correct.
it was just a
He
little
was
after Al Ballman. Al Ballman was here in 72.
Yep.
And you know, he became the head coach. And I know this is a very, very wide open question, but what was it like to play for Big Jer? I mean, you had obviously had coaches before Jerry. How was he different? What made, and we know he was special, what made him that way, and what made him influence you in the way that made you champions, made you desire to play the game at the level that you did? So anybody that wants
I
to
can
start.
tell you back when we were playing in 8th grade, you only got to play 1 quarter in 2 games. Because there were so many girls out, because we didn't have many girls' sports for anybody. So everybody plays 40 girls out for 8th grade. So
Yeah.
you had to sit, you got to play 5 minutes. They didn't play very long quarters in 8th grade. So then when we went from there, we didn't know anything going into 9th grade and 10th grade and all the way up. What's Big Jared doing? I mean, what are these plays? They didn't teach us plays. They didn't teach us how to do a pick. They didn't teach us that. And he's bringing all this language up, and we're like, what are you talking about? How do you do
That's
this?
right.
And we had to learn his language, what he was telling us about, and it was hard, like my freshman year. I was a freshman, and I sat in that meeting, and I was like, holy smokes, okay. And we didn't know what to do, but I was always in the gym with him, so I kind of had a little inkling how hard he could be, you know, because I was with his boys. But it was a learning curve to learn what, you know. And then we get into the Apollos. They had the Twin Towers
Oh,
down
yes.
there, the Kuman sisters, and
Mhm.
and we had our tallest in the first year was Jane Trubanoff at 5'11", and they're 6'1", 6'1", and 6'1" down there, and we're like, how do you set a pick on this person, you know?
Wasn't
I
there a
mean-
Paterka that played at that?
She's
Not-
my age.
she
was- Okay,
Carol's
so-
my age, but
Carol-
she's
I
close to
I
6 years.
digress there, I'm sorry.
No,
but
yeah.
to Carol.
She's down the line, but we had the Kuman sisters, and then they had the small. They were quick, and they had the big facility to play in.
Yes.
Or we had the little one, and we're still on a big learning curve of, you know, where are we, what's a pick? How do we do this?
Yeah.
But
And
he
dribbling
taught
a
it.
ball, and
Yeah.
he taught us how to do it, and he had patience. And he
would-
always said in the very first meeting I sat there, and he said, if I stop yelling at you,
Yeah.
that is the time you better be worried, because now I've given up on you.
Yeah, I think he was tough, but he was fair, and he was, you know, very encouraging. I learned a lot about sportsmanship. I learned a lot about teamwork. I mean, we were always playing as a team. There was no I in team for us. He taught us a lot of really solid life lessons about being competitive, being honest, being fair. I just think a lot of what he instilled in me has helped me be as successful as I am today. But he was, you know, we had fun, we worked hard, we laughed, we cried sometimes. But he was always our rock and was always encouraging and pushing us to be better and better every game, every chance. He had very high expectations, but he knew that we could deliver. So I got goosebumps just thinking
Oh, yeah,
about
oh, yes.
what a
Yes, I've had
difference he made in
goosebumps
my
all
life.
morning here, listening to
Yeah.
all of
Yes.
these stories. Tina, you were gonna say?
He was a very honest coach.
Yes.
You knew exactly where you stood with him, right? And he would, if you screwed up, he'd let you know. And if you made a good play, he'd let you know. And that,
Yes.
I've had many coaches in my life, but I always appreciated that
His style.
about, it's still hard for me to call him anything other than Coach Cool. I always appreciated that about him, is you knew where you stood, he told you what you had to do to get better,
Yeah.
and he told you when you did a good job.
Yes,
And that was,
yes.
Yes, and like you were talking earlier about, what inspired us to play, and a big part of it, and I always wanted to say is, yes, the 75 boys, 76, 77, just going down there to the state, I think that's why there was 40 girls out for basketball. But the nice thing was that Al Baum and Big Jer, they taught together. They worked together. Al was like our coach too, like with all these, sharing the gym, open gyms, we play against each other. And Big Jer, he would know through word of mouth if you needed a little extra talk that day before a game, or remember the big talk I got before playing my good friend Julie Grimm. And just when you were worried about this or that, he was kind of like a second dad, or he really was to all of us. And Bozy can talk.
No, hang on once, I want to ask you a
Okay.
question. The story you just said, what was this big talk that he gave you about your,
Julie Grimm.
Yeah.
Well, it was the semifinal game in 1980, and Julie 6'4", and I was. The game before Proctor, I had fouled out and had like 5 points, played we won. Everybody else picked up the slack, of course. And then just that morning, I think you could tell I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go against this tall person. It was just, and I don't know, he had somebody bring me, I think Halstead got me and
you were
walked me
working
down to the
yourself
pool.
all up.
I know, I got so scared. I'm scared now. No, just kidding. And then he called me. He said a few, you know what I mean? He just knew that I needed that, gave me my confidence, and the
You
rest is
said
history.
he was the rock.
Yes.
He was the rock.
He definitely was,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
all of us.
And what did Bozy say?
Bozy. Okay, so Bozy said, Mr. Cole was my neighbor. He's one of the reasons I was able to stay out for basketball my freshman year. Every day after practice, I would ask Mr. Cool if I could ride home with him. He'd ask me if I had a quarter, something that was between us. I owed him big time, not only monetarily, but mentally. We had some great talks on our very short rides, but I learned so much from him, and he gave me a lot of confidence in the way I played basketball. So,
Yes.
because she was able to get rides home and that, she was able to stay out, and they had a special bond too. Everybody kind of had their own bonds, and like Tina said, he was very honest.
And it's bigger than basketball.
Yes,
It's about people.
family.
Yes. And again, I think that's what kept us so close, and all through the years, and the friends that I have from basketball. But I think, Mr. Cool was just bringing us all together, and never really, there was no contention. It was all about coming together as a team, and you don't see that a lot. And
Well, we have one goal, and that's to win
To win.
as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of it. Tina, you were gonna add to that?
Well, I was just gonna say, he was also the high school math teacher, or my high school math teacher, and Betty probably appreciates this a little bit too, because she's a math major.
I am.
But my senior year, we kind of ran out of math classes, and he just kind of gave me a book on matrices. And for all of you non-math people here, it's like you're in trouble now. But
And you actually got excited about
Yeah,
this
I
book
did.
on
I
math.
did. I
Okay,
did.
that
But-
says a lot
but
right there.
It's something that's very rarely taught, and it's very, very useful in my field of physics. And I found out and it wasn't even calculus, because Little Falls didn't teach calculus at that time. But it was this math he gave me that 3 years later, when I'm in college, it's like, wow, I know how to do this, and none of you other guys do. You're all learning it now, and it was like, oh, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not really complicated math. It's stuff you can do without a lot of higher level skills, but it's really, really useful. And so
Yes.
I appreciated him as a basketball coach, but I still appreciate that little bit of math he gave me
Yeah.
that really helped later on. And
I just love
Yeah.
your enthusiasm. for
I know.
making
Wow.
Thinking,
Wow.
jeepers, I wanted to take that class from you.
And she's retired. When I start talking about physics, you're in big trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and like she said, math, right? My dad, Jerry, Big Al, we spent so much time in the math department, and the teachers embraced us, cheered us on. And I got my math education and coaching, and I never taught, but I coached, and I coached my daughter from kindergarten to 8th grade, and I tried to instill a lot of the same things that Jerry instilled in us.
You know,
for my
you know
daughter.
when a coach has made a mark, when you physically think about
Oh.
doing that for your own children.
Yeah.
and-
100%.
and-
Now
yes.
my daughter wants me to do it for my granddaughter.
Oh,
I'm like, I don't know if
right.
I can do it again.
I'll never forget when I came back in '84, and my first coaching job was at St. Mary's, I had 10 kids from 6th to 8th grade, and I'm coaching a game, and they're like, the one parent comes up, "You sound like Mr. Cool."
Nice compliment you could have given him.
Yes. And so, you know, with Jared coming in 1976 and your success in 1980 and the years in between there, I know that as a fan of girls basketball at that time, because I'm not that much further into the years than you are. I mean, I graduated in 79 and you guys in 78, so I remember, excuse me, 80. I was-
It's not make us older
my
than we
matrices
are.
were all messed up there. So I remember people using this term, and we didn't think anything of it back in the 70s and 80s. Today it would probably be offensive, but Jerry taught you to play basketball like boys. And I remember that was a very, very common thing. They play just like boys. Well, what they had the jump press. You know, you guys pressed
we pressed a lot.
as soon as you got off the bus, you were pressing.
Yeah.
I mean, and we expected it. Layups, and I can remember you going up in the layups that were caused because you had picked the ball off, or you had tipped the ball, or or made the pass, but it was a running game
Yes,
that was based on defense.
yes.
Add anything to that. Is that, you know, how did playing like a boy make you feel, or I mean, you heard
Yeah,
the same things.
Can I start, because
Yeah, go ahead.
these guys were all older than me, and I was the defensive specialist, and he focused on defense, but he always put me on the best player that wasn't a post. And that was my role, and we all knew our roles. And Tina was, when you got the rebound, you looked for Tina, and you knew exactly where she was gonna be. And Peggy and Bird were under the basket, you knew you were gonna be able to get a pass in. But that was my specialty on this team, was being a defender and defending the best player so that these guys can stay fresh and be more offense. Now, they played awesome defense too, but I remember as the sophomore, they put me on, the best guard or forward, and that was my role. And we did all know our roles, we played our roles well, we all stepped in when we needed to, but when you bring up defense, that's something near and dear, because
Yes.
that was my role for that
Yeah.
year. And then the next year I was half and half, and then my senior year I was a gunner. I just shot all the time.
Yeah.
So it evolved, but defense was my thing.
Yep, it was.
Want to add?
Coach Cool taught very good team defense.
Yes.
Yes.
And I remember him saying, people many times think we're playing a zone because we help each other out so
Yes.
much. So
We barely
it
played
was,
zone.
we never played a zone.
No.
But he goes, people think we're playing a zone because you know how to play such good help defense.
Yes.
And, yeah,
And it was
And I-
great, I'd watch these guys, I'd just stand down there and they'd be trap, oh, get a layup, yeah, I got a lot of rest down there. They just kept doing it, stealing the ball, but yes.
and defense was a tradition of Little Falls basketball,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I remember going to summer stuff with Coach Bauman and Coach Cool, and and even Coach Lager would say this.
Oh, yeah,
If you
ABC
play
defense.
If you play great defense but only score 1 point, and everybody on your team does that,
Yeah.
you're gonna win,
Yes.
5-0.
Yeah.
Now, I think we kinda all thought that would be a really boring game, cause I know all of us like to score.
Yeah.
But that was a big philosophy, right? It was, if you play good defense, you are going to win.
And
Yes.
and so on that same theme, how are you sold to that? Because everybody wants to shoot the ball. How did you get sold by Jerry and his coaching staff that you bought into defense created offense? I mean, how did you?
Defense creates the steals,
Right.
and that
Energy.
that energy goes right into the fast break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we steal it,
Yeah.
we send it to Tina, she takes her down,
Yeah.
that's what it was. And even when I was coaching, I coached the kids and I'd say, defense wins games,
Yeah.
defense and free throws wins the game.
Defense always works. Yes, defense works, right? You can have a horrible shooting game, but if you're playing good defense,
You're in the game.
you're in the game.
Yes.
And we saw that, and we
Yeah.
saw that early.
Yep.
And we full court pressed all the time too.
Oh, yes, that's
We
the other,
did.
the other
We
part
did.
about it is that
Oh,
jump,
yeah,
that
that
jump
was-
press had the opposing point guards. I mean,
Yes.
if you had your head down,
Yeah,
the ball was gone.
gone.
Yeah.
And if you had your head up looking for where that jump was coming from, the ball was
Was
gone.
gone.
Right, right.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I
But
mean,
we
that was really fun to
conditioned-
watch.
We conditioned to be that way. Jerry made us work hard and we did learn our spots and I think we were efficient because we were good at what we did and we took it very seriously. And I think that's where a lot of our
Well,
success
I
came
think
from.
that we have a basketball IQ as well.
Yeah.
You know, to just be in the right spot is one thing, but to know why you're in that spot is just as
That was
important.
the
you know, I
learning
mean,
curve from-
That's the,
Yeah.
yeah,
The beginning though.
yeah,
And I'm gonna brag on us a little bit.
you should.
I should.
Oh,
A lot of times, people will come up to me and say, you know, I just got a high school coaching job, what should I play? And I always tell, press, because the teams you're playing won't know how to handle it, and you'll be in such good condition that you'll be able to do it. And oh, by the way, if someone presses you because you've been practicing pressing, you'll know how to break the press, right?
Yeah.
But not every school can do that, because you do need the players
Yeah.
who can run like that and jump like that and learn like that and pay attention like that.
Yeah.
And so it's a great way to play,
Mhm.
but you do need
You need the
the
players.
people who can play.
Yes.
And the coach that makes you run like crazy and the man
I
killers
know,
and
I
Yeah.
know.
So let's
women
go into,
makers.
let's
And
go into
it's-
the women makers. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Jerry Cool's practices, you know,
Oh,
because he was
goodness.
notorious for a lengthy practice. You know, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
not that any other coaches
Yeah.
aren't into the lake, but I think the women's basketball, the girls' basketball teams of the eighties, I mean, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We,
Yes,
we,
yeah,
we
for
would
sure.
practice
8
6 days a
a.m.
week,
Saturday
but
morning.
Saturday for us was
Yeah.
usually a walkthrough of some kind, but you guys, I mean, if we followed you into the gym, you guys were sweating.
Yeah. I think what he helped us do was play as a team, but then work on our specialties. You'd see the posts at one, working on their drop step, he was so technically sound that he would get us focusing on certain skill sets that
Mhm.
I think other teams didn't get that opportunity, because he was so good and he was such a good athlete himself and technically sound that he
Yeah.
would, like, guards, you worked on your ball handling, you did this, and he would separate us, but really then have the coaches that could develop certain skils that we could isolate. But I think that really made a difference, and then as we came together, we were just a well-oiled machine, because we were so used to practicing together and knowing where people were gonna be and talking through things. I just,
Yeah,
It was
and
really
it was
good.
always the same routine.
yeah.
You know, the same routine, we knew it was gonna go on, and the same music.
Sweet
Sweet
Georgia
Georgia
Brown.
Brown cassettes, and, yeah, and our favorite Cactus.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we love that. That was when
It's always fun to play.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and and a big, Halstead being there, Lynn Halstead and John Haas, I mean, they,
I was gonna ask about the assistant coaches, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's-
Amazing.
Who were all the
well,
assistants?
Lager had us in middle school at that time. He came up later, like my senior year to be up to high school, but they got us prepared. I mean,
Yes.
that was great. But like with how many players there were, I don't know how much real practice time, but mentally was awesome. But Halstead, she was the B squad coach, and then John
John
Haas.
Haas.
So those two, and the way they had to scout and do this and do that, and they were a great.
It's not like it is today, being able to scout a game. They don't put it on the hub
No, you
or
go
the
to the
huddle and
opposing
you can
gym.
go watch
Yeah.
everything, They actually had to go and send people to games and watch them.
Yeah.
We're talking, yeah.
But they all had the same philosophy, and they all coached with the same dedication, the
Mhm.
same, I think, like
Grit.
philosophy and grit, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't like you were getting one from one coach and something else from a different
Yes.
coach. Jerry was regimented, and we all knew, and so there wasn't like that, and there was no tension. I never felt tension. I never felt any,
Everybody got along.
anything but let's work hard together and let's win.
Cohesion and consistency.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And the red, white, and blue.
Well,
And
yeah,
purple,
Almond ran
then
that
we
too.
added purple.
yeah.
Yes.
Red, white,
Oh,
blue,
by the
and
time I
purple.
coached with them in the 90s, there was
Was green.
pink check and a green and a, yeah.
So
Yes,
red,
our
white, blue,
red,
and
white,
purple, that must have
blue.
been,
Those were our
that
plates.
must have been a math thing, because that was what, Al Ballman did
Yeah,
the same
I'm
thing.
sure,
I mean,
I'm sure they sat during their
I'm-
lunch
yes,
breaks and
yeah,
talked
let's
about
make it easy,
plays.
we'll just name them the same thing.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
His practices were really well designed though to condition as
Yes.
well. So I mean, we'd run lines or killer. I think we called them killers, didn't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
Killers. We'd run them occasionally, but a lot of the drills we did were conditioning drills in the guise of having fun playing basketball, right? Like the cactus drill. That's
Yes.
a
Right.
tough conditioning drill,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I personally never thought it was really that good of an idea to use killers, a game that you have to run. But we're gonna use killers as a discipline thing. So we're a running basketball team, but now we're gonna run more for this because we screwed up, I mean, I always found that to be kind of counterproductive, but having it in cactus was fun because
Yeah.
you were doing the same thing, but you were actually playing basketball.
Yeah, and we all
Instead
like
of-
to win, so it got pretty
It
competitive
got-
on the
oh,
court.
yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Well,
definitely.
another conditioning one we played was that 2-on-1, 3-on-2, 2-on-1.
Oh, yeah.
Where you, if you were the back person, you had to hustle back and be the one.
Yep.
So you best, there's your killer.
3 1-minute shooting, 3 1-minute shooting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So now you said that Jerry was very concrete math, it kind of goes all hand in hand, concrete sequential. What were the pregame situations like? Who was in charge of getting you ready to play besides yourselves?
Wow.
What kind of rah?
Me, well, this is number 1.
Oh, you've got props, okay.
Yes.
So my mother started in 1980. She would make these buttons, and she always had a rhyme on them. And a rhyme from like maybe the game that we just got done, going into the next game. I don't know how she's a rapper and I didn't even know it.
yeah.
And you can see there was some for Christmas. I just put a bunch on here, but it was for every game for 2 years she did it. And
that in
I was to
Facebook.
find, I would get the packet, my mom would give it to me in the morning, and everybody knew. And they were all like, they knew they had to get their button before because everybody was so superstitious.
Yeah.
And so they'd meet me and I'd give them their button and then we'd wear them all day,
Yep.
and that was to start the mornings off.
Yeah.
That was,
So, yep, and even when we went to state, like Peggy was saying, all the parents were helping and we were writing them out because there was no copy machine for my mom to make them, and we had to have those buttons before our games or.
But we would come running in, and Tina would always be in the front with the ball running in, and we would, the starting 5 would come first, and we'd run all the way around the gym, and then Tina would do the first layup, and then we'd split, and we would, we'd have really set warm-ups every single time, and everyone was, like, the energy was there, we would be
And make the
boosting
layup to
everybody
start
up.
off on the right
Yes,
foot. There was a lot of
layup.
pressure on that.
But our warm-ups were the same as the practices, very much the same every time, very much, very well thought out, prepared us for the game.
How did
and it
Jerry
was
do
great.
that himself for you? Was he, I mean, he was a very, very enthusiastic guy, but did he say a lot in the locker room? Or was it one of the assistant coaches?
what part of the locker room?
Where-
The halftime
Is
or
it
the beginning?
halftime?
Well, no, we can get into
before the
halftime,
game.
because I know how halftimes change from pre-games.
Yes, very much
Yes,
so.
yes.
Sometimes he'd say, "Hey, girls, close your eyes, I'm coming in."
Yeah.
That was his funny line.
Yeah.
But,
But he
yeah.
would prepare us by saying, who are the starting
Yeah.
5, what
Okay,
to
so he was-
expect, he would get
Yeah.
us
He'd
all
have
prepared,
the-
so
what-
you know,
how
who
we
we were
were-
guarding, what
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
to look for, how you needed to, so he would get us mentally prepared, and then we would energetically get us prepared, because we were all wanting to win, and we, I
Right.
think it was just a lot of positive energy.
Remember, it's
Jobs.
all chalkboards now too,
Oh, yes.
not marker boards like there is today.
Yeah.
Because we'll get into a halftime, and he'd
Right.
have a stick of chalk, and we were in the driver's training room, which is
Yep.
downstairs, which
Yep.
is now the team room.
Yep.
And the chalkboard and that stick by 2 minutes into halftime was at the back wall. You need to be right here. And it was broke. Oh, yeah.
But I think he got enthused into it too. He would get, like, so remember how energetic he would get, and he he would be up here with us. You know,
Oh,
he wasn't
certainly.
too calm, he was, you know,
Yep.
Yes.
but
So how did that work in timeouts for him? I mean, I remember Coach Al.
Here's a good picture.
He would get so intense that,
yes, but he was
Yeah.
encouraging and coaching, he was teaching us, he wasn't yelling at us. I never felt like he was yelling. I mean, he was
Oh,
like,
Betty, don't shoot,
I
shoot.
felt
Good
he
shot.
was yelling. Yeah, because if he stopped yelling, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
well, but in a way that was, I never felt it was pointed
It
at
wasn't.
me.
It wasn't mean, but it was yelling.
Aggressive.
I mean, he'd
Yeah.
let you know when you did something. And,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you had mentioned music yesterday in that golf tournament. Dwight Nelson had to make sure that I asked you ladies, where did Sweet Georgia Brown come from? Because he said they played it so much that,
Every day.
yeah, where did it come
Every
from?
day for
Who's,
4
is
years.
this, did
Oh,
Jerry?
yeah, Big Jerry had
Big
it.
Jerry had
His
it taped.
cassette. Da, 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 da,
Do you
da,
listen to it anymore?
Have it on my phone.
Yeah,
See?
see?
Leeanne and I disagree. I think it was a record player.
No,
See,
it
no,
was
I
a,
didn't
no, it
think-
was
I
a
think
No,
cassette.
it was
a
a
cassette.
cassette.
It was
Yeah,
a cassette.
Okay.
I
There was a
think-
boombox with a cassette in it.
Okay.
And then I think
And
Debbie Helmerson
Debbie
stole it her
Helmerson
senior
later on
year.
down in the 80s stole
Stubborn.
it and broke it, but or something, and he got really mad. Oh, yeah.
One thing I want to talk about, and I'm just thinking of it now, the motivation of our 1980 season started our last game. I mean, the season before, you know, in the gym you might see one little section was our parents. But you know, we were one game away from state. We lost to Melrose to go to state. So you know, we were
So
we were
close.
we were so close, and I think that's what got us, I think, started and motivated the whole summer. I mean, we worked on it, but you know, you forget about and all that what builds up, you know, and
And you came through at a very, very good time from the standpoint of not only having the team that you had,
right.
but, you know, the community remembered 1975, 76,
Mhm.
77.
Yes.
And when you came up, you know, what did you feel from the community of Little Falls? I mean, what was the feeling like for you as high school juniors or seniors or sophomores? What was it like for you to know that, and what was the community
We
saying?
can go
and
all the
doing?
way back to when he started. We didn't have but your parents in the stands.
Yeah.
And then you get to the 4 years later, and there's standing room only, and the gym isn't even close to what it was like before because everything's built around. But there was 3 to 4 people deep around the up
Kind
the
of
wall,
like back in the
and they
70s.
had that wall that opened up, and it was just like standing room only everywhere. I mean, that's just, go out there to practice and you're looking around like, wow, where did everybody come from? You know, because we just had our parents, you know, and then they got a little bit bigger as we won a few more games.
Yep.
Then the next year got even bigger, you know, and then we get to that junior year, our junior year, it got really big.
Yeah.
And then our senior year, it was just like, and then at state tournament, you're looking
All
at,
purple.
oh, it's all purple.
It
I
was
was like,
great. Tons of
wow.
buses
I
on the
mean,
way
I
down
mean,
and-
the community was just overwhelmingly, it was
Supportive.
so
They were
supportive
in-
of us, you
yes.
know, and the things that you have out on the highways and just, you know, it was amazing.
The storefronts.
Yeah,
Mhm.
oh yeah, and in church and in the grocery store, you'd have people come up and you didn't know who they were, and I mean, they knew
Yeah,
who we
it
were,
was
and
amazing.
Classmates
You know?
and just,
Yeah,
yeah,
everyone
it was
was-
wonderful. It was great.
It kind of helped the community rally around something, and the
Yes.
boys started that
Oh,
for
yeah.
us, and then when you saw success, and the girls actually are fun to watch too, then they come and watch us play. I did want to say one thing real quick, because Leeanne was talking a little bit about that year before 1980. So I was a freshman, and I was on the B squad, and Leeanne broke her foot.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that?
My
The volleyball
sophomore-
stand?
Sophomore
Yes,
It was your
yes,
sophomore
yes.
year.
Yep.
That year before I
Uh-huh.
started. So because she broke her foot, they moved me up to varsity. And I got the opportunity to play and practice with these guys as a freshman. And I was definitely, you know, out of my element, but I think that gave me the impetus and the motivation to really wanna play with these guys, and that's when I started the next year, but, you know.
You're
and-
welcome.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So I know you have some stuff from Vosen. Did she have
Yeah, what'd
anything
she
to
have?
add to?
She said, just about, you know, when she was a freshman, we only had one section of bleachers pulled out, and then she just couldn't believe how many fans as time went on. And she did not have one game that stood out, but just winning the state championship was the best ever. She wishes she could be here today, and thanks for the memories. She also said, yeah, she just loved playing at state. It was the coolest thing, and then playing with us was amazing. I'll pay her for that later. But just kidding. And Mr. Bauman taught her how to shoot a basketball. So, but yeah.
There you go, okay. Now, when Leeanne came in, the first thing she said was there was a few superstitions on this
Boy.
1980 basketball team. You
Well,
wanna,
I'll name one superstition that started in '76 was up until state, or the year before, we bought Big Jer a leisure shoot. When I was a freshman, that was Jane Trivanoff and our team, and we all put in $25, and he wore that then to school, and it was
Purple.
getting short on him, and he'd wear pink socks. And then finally he went to the gray pants and the other, but oh gosh, that was a superstition to him. And his other one was is he had to wear the same undergarments, and they'd wash them at state. They washed them Vicky had to wash them in the hotel so he could wear them the same thing at the game. Yep.
how about players?
I had a lot of superstitions.
you?
Oh my goodness. It started with putting the shoes on. I had to put my right shoe on first, then my left shoe, then tie my left shoe, then tie my right shoe.
Wow.
You realize that if you told a player that now, they couldn't play, because they would think, which shoe do I
Yep.
start with? Which one did I start with? How am I going to do that?
And
I had to.
where does my phone work into
Yeah.
that?
I had to go for a run in the morning. Not a long run, but just a little sort of shake-up jog, right? Now, this was when we went to state tournament. You know, we're down in the big cities. And it's
Oh.
like,
And Tina needs to-
boy, Tina needs some protection when she goes running around the empty parking lot by the Met Center. So we had a bunch of great fans. Reggie Guast, Dave Stump, Barry Cool, who were
Yeah.
going to get up and protect me in the morning, right? So they were going to go for a run with me.
Because we wouldn't. No,
Well,
just
that wasn't part of their tradition. They can't break tradition at state.
No.
And you know, as young men are often do when they're away from home, they celebrate a little bit. And
Yeah,
I think those guys were hurting a little bit on that morning run, and not because I was running so fast. And then the other thing, I had to have a pregame meal of chicken soup, homemade chicken soup. And my parents brought the crock pot down to the
Oh, my
hotel,
goodness
yeah,
gracious.
so I could have chicken soup before those games. Bless their, you know, but yeah, it was
Wow.
like, yeah, wow.
that's great.
It apparently worked.
It
but-
did.
I liked it.
Do you still eat chicken soup?
Not as good as what my mom used to make.
I think mine was the liver and onions before every meal.
Good defense.
Game, yeah. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it at state tournament because where are you gonna go find liver and onions? But yeah, that's what I ate. My mom would make it every time before we'd leave for bus or before the game.
No shoe rituals?
No.
Shoe rituals.
I'm trying to think.
That's probably
Okay.
the only one.
Couple of them. I think I had Rice Krispies in the morning. I just had to have that. And I don't know. And for some reason, I keep thinking I had to have cream and mushroom soup, which was probably bad. You know, I had that before every game, and I didn't discover I was lactose intolerant until age 50. So these girls had to put up with a lot. Rose, cut that. Just kidding. Okay. Anyway, after the games, Tony Wetzel would bring this. Tony, yes, Judge Wetzel, and bring this to the games, and I even have a picture of her and me, and I had to kiss it after the games. After the game, I had to go kiss the bird, and she had it on the stage tour. So that was another one. Same clothes, not so much, but, I had this lip, like, whatever it is, chapstick, and I'd have it in my pocket, and I'd use it, you know, pre-game or whatever, and then before the game, I'd have to hand it to Big Chair, put it in his pocket. It was like, really was, I know you guys maybe didn't know that, but anyway.
I did not. I did not.
I'm remembering a gum ritual, which
Oh,
I can't
Me and
remember.
my
No, I think I chewed gum, but I couldn't chew it in the game, and I thought I always took it out and gave it to Halstead.
I believe it, you
I,
did.
I think it's
remember.
like it's the funny
Yes.
things you remember when,
Yes.
when you start
Yeah.
reminiscing.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. What about
I'm
you?
not sure. I had the same, I see the undies, everybody, I don't know why, it's something about
Same
that, because they're
clothes.
hidden and no one knows, but if you know, I don't think I had any traditions like that where I had to do something in a certain order, but I do think, I had to mentally prepare the same, and, there were certain things that we did that was like, oh no, we can't do that, but I don't have anything real specific that was that structured that I had to do that would change my game if I didn't do it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But during the game, what about before free throws? Tina's, did you
Yeah.
always have to put your,
Put
her
the braids back, yep, whip them
Oh,
back.
that's
Remember?
right, you had those
Yep.
Braids.
braids,
yeah.
yes. Did you ever take out an eye of an opposing player?
I've been told that I did. Somebody once said you should put those little, I don't know if they still make them, they had those
Oh,
rubber
those
bands
balls.
with
The
the balls
balls.
on them,
Oh,
you should put those on the
that
end,
would've
and it's
been
like, no,
vicious.
that's going too far.
chip team? And mine was, of course, my free throw. My 10-second free throw.
Did you get that?
I can
hand
blame
back?
that on Big Jer. I was saying that my percentage was terrible. Of course, as a center, you're gonna get fouled all the time. And I always hated to get fouled because then I had to go shoot a free throw, so he'd keep me after practice, and he just kind of, he's the one who had me practice here. And then I got up my own routine in my driveway, and then that's why I had my whole routine and took 10 seconds.
And it
It went
worked.
up to 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, guys?
How much of that was the 6 inches or so
Yep,
between
that's
what they
ears? But,
say.
that's a whole nother story there,
And
yes.
I don't- yeah.
So, I mentioned already about the atmosphere in Little Falls, and I'd be remiss to not mention the voice of Little Falls Radio, Jack and Betty Peck. What do you remember about that year and Jack and Betty, or Jack's voice, or just
It was
take
so
off with it?
distinct. I think that was the cool thing.
He
It
had
was
a
so
great, I mean,
distinct. His
Great
he
radio
had a
voice.
great
amazing.
radio voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was getting so excited, and you could feel
Yeah.
the energy in his voice, and when you have all of that positive energy, it just elevates, I think, and he was one of our biggest fans.
Fans.
And always, you could hear him, you could feel him
Yeah.
and sense him, because he just was like so energetic,
Yeah.
And
kind of the Dickie V of Little Falls,
Mhm.
he was awesome.
And you had that little tam, I mean, he wore one of
Yes,
those.
I had-
Yeah.
Yes, he
I
wore
had
that all the
one
time. Where did I
yesterday,
put
think,
it?
I think.
Remember.
I have one
Anyway,
in the
yes.
car, yep.
Yeah, he always wore that. I have a picture of him and Betty, Mr. and Mrs. Little Falls. I'd always call whenever I'd see both of them. And no, rest in peace, Betty and Jack. So, but they're just,
We
it
were
was
all
wonderful.
blessed to have that
blessed.
voice as
Oh,
part of our
yes.
growing
Yeah.
up.
Forever.
Yes.
We were talking with the 75 group how they used to rebroadcast ball games on Saturday morning,
Mhm.
and how you'd sit by the radio and you'd listen to that voice, and then they talked about Coach's Corner,
I was
Yeah.
just saying,
and
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you were, I'm sure, all invited to Coach's Corner
Yes.
more than once on the
Oh,
edge of the
yeah.
ledge at the Pine
Oh,
Edge,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
I mentioned to the guys if they remember those caramel rolls. that
Oh,
they-
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yep.
it was a highlight for
Yep.
Big time.
players, yes.
It was. It was great.
Well, and I'll make another push for equality, right? They didn't have to put the girls' basketball games on the radio, but they
No,
did.
They
Yeah,
did,
they sure did.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
But
No.
he treated, he had the same level of energy and excitement calling the boys' games as he did the girls' games, which
Yeah.
made us feel like we were all,
Yep.
Yeah.
being the same. It wasn't like, oh, the girls, you go over in this corner, and the guys,
Right.
you get elevated. We all had the same, he had that energy and just that wherewithal for all of us to feel like we were all,
Yeah.
important.
And like you said, I mean, the people that, just our community did that.
Yes.
A community, our people we worked with, our coaches, everybody, it's
Yeah.
equal. We
Yeah.
were so blessed. I mean, you don't realize it till later when you talk about it and reminisce that we were.
The other thing Little Falls had at that time was 2 hometown papers. They
Yes.
had
Yeah.
The
the
transcript.
Morrison, the transcript and the
Yeah.
record,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they were daily
Pictures.
papers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
well, one was a daily, one was a
Right.
weekly, but there was a lot of coverage
Yeah.
for
All of those
girls'
pictures that-
basketball,
all
yeah.
those pictures
Our
that were out
scrapbooks
there.
are huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
We got
it.
lots
Yeah.
of stuff.
We were very lucky. That
Yes.
was a
Yeah.
very good time in Little Falls
Yeah.
for a lot of different things, and
Yeah.
athletics was a very big part of that.
Absolutely.
And talking about another great Bob Highland.
Oh, yes.
What a
Yeah, he was
fire
another-
booster
Yeah.
Another
that
big booster.
got us to the Lions groups and
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
that, he still just bled purple.
Yeah,
And enthusiasm, the
Oh,
enthusiasm that
yeah.
he brought to the table was
Yeah.
absolutely.
unbelievable.
And him and Big Jer were like
Very close.
very, very, very close.
Yeah,
We called him his silver fox, right?
yeah, yeah,
So it's 1980,
yes.
and the section regional games that you played. Who did you play? How did you get to where you were playing for a championship? What can you remember about, that one weekend or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday would have probably been back in those
Apollo
days.
was our first game.
I'm gonna take you back to the Christmas of '79, before
Okay.
that, because
Wow.
I think this is, the more I think about it, the more important I think it was. We went into that season wanting to go undefeated. We didn't want to lose a game.
Yeah,
We didn't want to lose a game. And I think it was the last game before Christmas, we played St. Cloud Apollo
yep,
at St. Cloud Apollo, and we lost.
yep,
And we played horrible. And I remember just feeling awful, because we had never beaten St. Cloud Apollo,
no,
ever, right? So we come back, right, and we're playing them at home in January, February,
yeah,
and we're down. And I fall out, and I think you fouled out.
Probably.
And Melanie Melby, who's the sub, right? She comes in and spells Leeanne. I don't think she played a lot. Maybe spelled you on occasion, would come in for Betty. She hits the game-winning shot, and we finally beat
Finally,
St.
yes. I got
Cloud.
goosebumps.
Apollo. We finally
Yes.
beat them, right? Now, had we won in December, things, I don't know, might have been different. We might have been undefeated. But then we were gonna play St. Cloud Apollo
Apollo at
in the
Cathedral.
regionals.
that was
Oh,
the
yeah.
champion.
And you know what they say?
Yep.
It's really hard to beat a team 3 times.
Yeah.
So I go back to that loss thinking maybe that was the best thing that could have happened to
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
that
It
year.
motivated us
Mhm.
too,
Yeah.
and it really did, you
That's
have to
true.
have a
Yeah.
loss to really
Yeah.
Well, we
learn
talked
from
about
it
the
and-
CI loss in 1975, and what that did was it reset the clock. It
Yeah.
reset,
Yeah.
and again, you had the right mentality to know that that reset needed to take place.
Yeah.
It could have been something that you just lingered on. Well, we're not gonna be undefeated, so,
Yeah.
that was gonna be our legacy. No,
Yeah.
you had the right mentality.
Yeah, and I think
And
the
we went
leadership
into
that we
that.
had on the team to help us to motivate us instead of to, take it the other way. I think, you three, Vosie and I looked up a lot, the leadership helped us all. I mean, there's a big team, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes that
All of
kind of
that
mindset
team.
and that leadership
Yes.
to really get the team to
And
come back.
everybody on
Yes,
that
pull it
team
up.
had a role.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah,
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 they did.
everybody played a role. I mean,
Yeah.
you had to practice against somebody every
Yeah.
night.
But I'm gonna
Yes.
tell you back to our defensive specialist over there against Apollo at Cathedral. I can tell you we played a box and one, and who was the one?
Who were you chasing?
Carol Paterka.
Carol Paterka.
There's the name again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is.
Okay, so you were chasing Carol.
Yeah, she was not liking her because she was
was
swearing up a
relentless.
storm
Yeah.
on the court.
But I had to, because
Yeah.
that was my job, and
That was
that's
probably the
what I
only
was-
time we have ever
Yes.
played a zone in basketball. Where we played a box and one,
Yeah.
and she
And they had no idea what
just
to do.
chased her.
They didn't know what to do.
No.
They'd never had that happen before, and so it was.
And the longer it lasted, the
The more
worse it
frustrated
The
became
worse
for
she
them.
got
Uh-huh.
agitated,
And once you get them to that point, you've taken them out of their game.
Yes.
Yeah.
and we
Yeah,
beat
that
them,
was the
but
goal.
not. We beat them by almost 10 points.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was,
it
it
was
wasn't
a
a
much
close
different
It
game.
wasn't as close as the other ones were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was one of the questions, and I think that would have been for you, what was it that I remember most about that season? And that was beating Apollo just to go into state, from a section,
So
so
that
the
was,
season,
that was the region final or
Yeah.
the section.
No,
No, the
no,
regional.
no,
No, just-
that was the section final. We had to go
Okay.
to Detroit Lakes
Okay.
and beat Detroit Lakes on their home court.
Yeah,
And that place was full of purple.
yeah.
Yeah.
We had this, I can guarantee you, we had the locker rooms at the end of at the thing, cause I coached there once. And they had chairs everywhere. If a fire warden would've come in, we wouldn't have been
And,
playing that
and
game.
that's the old gym where they had the stage there.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, and the stage was
Yeah.
pulled out, they had
Right,
chairs in the
right,
front, they
yeah.
had chairs down there, and we had this much room to get out of the locker room to get onto
Yeah.
onto the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we beat them. That was the game to go to state.
Yeah.
Detroit Lakes.
And that was as, did that have as much emotion for you as the Apollo game did?
Oh, yeah,
No,
because
yeah.
that was one step away from the
Yeah,
big dance.
I think it did, because at that point in time,
yeah.
we had, I mean, we wanted to win state, but we really wanted to go to state, right?
Yeah,
That was,
So
yes.
once you made that trek to the state tournament, you knew from the get-go that your goal was to win the whole thing. I
Oh,
mean, that was
absolutely.
that was no question about it. There
Well,
was
yeah,
no
yeah,
question
like
about
the
it.
Why be- why not?
Isn't
Like,
that your
yeah.
goal all the time
That
to
is
win?
the goal, but you know, when you're 17 and 18 years
Yeah.
old, some are
Yeah.
just happy to be
Yeah.
there, you
Yeah,
know?
no, we wanted to win.
Okay.
Oh.
I wanted to
Big-
win,
Yes.
and you
Big-
guys
I
wanted to
wanted to
win.
win. Yeah.
Big Jer always said the season was mixing the cake. The tournament started was to now bake it and frost it, and state tournament was to decorate it.
That's a very, very
Yeah.
good way of putting it, yeah.
And
And
here's
we,
a
and
good
we got
story.
back,
Yes.
there was a cake in the
Oh,
gym,
yeah.
decorated with a trophy on top of it. Remember that?
I
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
I do.
And so,
The year before, again, we Big Jer would take, and Halstead, they'd take us down in vans or bus or whatever to watch the state tournament. We got to go down there in person and watch before we,
Yeah.
and to sit there and see Janet Carvin, oh my gosh, there she is, you know. They were like, oh, Kelly Skillicky, you know, we watch. But the cool part was, I had the program, and Peg had taken a pen, and she goes, 1 year from today, we will be taking the championship trophy home.
Wow,
It's in the program. I mean, and then it happened, so that was
Yeah.
the, right?
wow,
yeah, yeah,
So,
incredible.
yeah.
you know, them taking the time to do all that and bring us down there and have us watch, and just all they did, different things as a, you know, the coaches, it got us going.
I remember as being a seventh or eighth grader, seventh grade or eighth grade, and having those 75 players come to
Yeah.
Lady of Lords
Yep.
and, you know, sit through a practice, you know, maybe run us through a drill or two or
Yeah.
something. Did Jerry have you guys going out to the elementary schools and
I don't remember
being a
that.
part of
I don't remember that, I mean,
anything like that?
for us,
I
it
don't
was,
remember it.
no, and we, you know, Peggy and I would have left, because we graduated, right? I mean, we were still in town, but
Right.
then,
Nobody.
Then
No,
we
but
left.
in your,
Right.
in, you
No,
know, in your
I didn't
earlier
remember
No,
years.
I
doing
don't
that in
remember
the
doing
spring.
that at all.
Okay, because, yeah, the 75 team came before
Yeah.
the season, you know, before,
No.
it was during the season, or they had bench guests as well. Did Jerry have bench guests where
I
kids would
think
come in?
bench
think
guests
so.
started
Came
down
later.
a little bit later,
Okay,
maybe
but they
towards
did
the-
have
yeah.
to get that enthusiasm to
Mhm.
the other girls,
Yeah,
because
because
you
the-
don't realize when you're in the moment, how many little eyes are looking
Yeah.
at you.
Mhm.
You know, both in the positive sense, and, you know, you guys were all very, very good people, but you can see how, in the positive and the negative, they see everything that way. And you're role models to so many young ladies that were growing up at that time, and probably take the philosophy that Jerry had, that watching you play, into their own coaching, and I mean, that's a tremendous attribute to be able to say.
Yeah.
Now, in that region final, you beat Detroit Lakes. You go down, and who do you play in the first round of the state tournament?
Proctor.
Proctor.
And isn't that where your friend played, was
No,
Proctor?
she was the next game.
Yeah, we'll
Hopkins
tell you about the
Lindbergh.
next game.
Okay, so let's start with the Proctor game.
Ooh. That was not my, Proctor, I just remember we're all nervous. Halstead accidentally spilled water all over me during the, I think my water spilled and I was all wet. Who cares? That wasn't the reason. Maybe to cool me off because I fouled out and I had 5 points. So for me, it was like, but we won. Like I said, that was the key. It was kind of, I don't know how it felt.
Both Peggy and I was 1 for 5. Peggy
Well,
keeps.
I was 1 for 5 as well, so the free throw line was not our favorite.
No, I mean, so the 2 seniors on the team are just blowing it at the free throw line. I mean, we ended up winning. We played okay
Yeah, yeah.
away from the free throw line, but we're on the free throw line. And
That basket seemed to me, when you're in a big place like that, it just seemed like it was like something in the air. And
The
how
depth
It was a little
Perception.
shell shock.
it
Yeah.
was,
I think we
it's a
worked up
different
to a
view,
slow
right? Because
start.
you play in a gym
Where
Walls
there's
to
the
walls.
where there's
back
walls,
wall.
and then you play in an arena where
Yeah.
I know.
That
there's
was
people
tough,
behind
yeah.
you.
Hard to
Yeah.
get used to.
Did we get to have a shoot around? I was trying to remember. Did
No.
we go in there earlier and?
No.
I don't think
I
they
don't
did
think
that
they did
because they
that.
were, yeah.
So that was Proctor. I don't know how much
And
we
we were
won
at
by.
one of our we were always behind in the third quarter. The third quarters were never our fun quarters, but look out, our energy came back by the fourth quarter, and we have our energy money going here, and she.
When it matters.
Yeah, when it mattered,
Yep.
yep.
So you beat Proctor, now you,
Now it's Hopkins
Onward.
Limburg Flyers against the Little Falls
Flyers.
Flyers.
I
And they
remember
were-
that, I remember that.
And they were,
Yeah.
they weren't they the team to beat?
Yep.
No,
were the
it
ones-
was, I think it was, Mankato East, Barb
Oh,
Meredith's team,
okay.
and they got beat in the first round.
Right.
But,
Hopkins
Hopkins,
was
Lindbergh, and
Hilmer.
Hill Murray was another, but we'll get to them,
Yeah.
but Hopkins Lindbergh was good. I mean,
They
they
were
had a
good.
6'4" center.
yes.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
had.
That's five
Sally
seniors, I
Guard.
think. No, there was, what, Julie was the only junior.
And
And
four
then there's
seniors, and I think all those seniors went on to play college basketball.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
In
team.
fact, one of them was her roommate, I
Yeah,
think it was
one-
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and-
So those
Yeah.
conversations
Yeah.
were kind of
She
fun.
went,
Yeah.
yeah, we went to NDSU, played with Sally, and
Yeah.
then she went
And then
with
she was
Julie.
best friends with
But-
Julie, and
Yeah.
Julie's her best friend to this day.
So Julie, yes, so Julie and I played against each other in the state tournament. We ended up winning. Okay, actually, and then the next year, yada yada. She's being recruited to New Mexico State. I'm getting recruited by New Mexico State. She flew down to look at the college. Well, we didn't. And so anyway, I got a VCR tape, and I had to go to Peggy's, their house, to watch it because nobody had VCR machines. Okay, I won't age myself. I just did. So then I called Julie, and hey, Julie, yeah, she of course did like me because we beat them in the state tournament. We still joke about it. Anyway, we ended up both going there. We're roommates. We've been best friends all these years. And
So-
she, yeah.
But I have a story about Julie Grimm in the state championship, because
Oh yeah.
so they made I don't think she took the shot, someone else took a shot, and I was good at boxing out. I had to use my hips for my size, and I had her behind me, and she already had 4 fouls, and she reached over my back and got her 5th foul, and I jumped about this high off the ground.
They got
It's
pictures.
on, we have it in pictures. And everyone's like, Betty, you just lost us the sportsmanship award. And Tina's like, I don't care.
I don't
we're
care,
gonna win."
we're gonna win the state championship.
But that was like one of the biggest memories. Everyone's like, Betty, you just lost us. Well, who cares? She fouled out, and she was over my back, and it was like a defining
Game has
moment of
changed
that
now.
game. Oh, it changed dramatically without Julie in there, the 6'4", and yeah, so that was one of, like, when you
And
said, what are one of your
Crumpetich-
biggest
didn't
memories? That was
Crumpetich
Julie's
That's
get hurt?
funny.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Sue
Sue Crumpetich blew her knee out.
blew her
too.
knee out before
Well-
that, yeah.
She hurt it, and she actually came back in.
Yeah, and then she would,
They got taped her up,
Mhm.
and she tried to keep playing.
right.
And then she really,
blew it out.
then she
Yeah.
blew it out, so that was.
Yeah.
And all the games are on.
They're on YouTube.
Yes.
I have them on
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
I was watching.
Thanks to
On my way
Dave and Mark.
And since I said what a horrible free throw shooter
Yes.
we were in the first game, we made the free throws when it counted.
Exactly.
Yes.
In the end.
that
In the
game.
end, yeah.
Tina.
And that was the championship game. No,
No,
you went to the
semis.
championship.
So we won by
Semi.
5.
We won by
Yeah.
5.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Then we're in the championship game.
And who
Then
we
we played
played?
Hill Murray.
Hill Murray.
And
Yeah.
you know, a lot of these teams, they all had these players whose names we recognized from being, part of state tournament lore
Yeah.
in previous years, and now we're playing against them
Yes.
Yep.
and beating them. That's
And we
cool.
were like nobody.
Yeah.
So.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
it
Yeah.
was cool, yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
And that final game went how? I mean, did you start out ahead? Did you
We
start out?
we were up by 8. I just watched it on the way up
Okay,
here. We were up
okay.
by 8. They
Eight.
scored 8 unanswered, so then it was tied, and it went back and
Back and
forth, at least for
forth.
the first half was
I
pretty
think I got in
close.
some foul trouble in
Yes,
that
you
game
did have-
because
you
I
had 2
ended
in the
up
first half.
sitting out part of
Mhm.
the first half.
Mhm. Yep,
Yeah.
Marie came in. Props to Marie Fessler. She was
Yes.
the
Yeah.
I think we need to
Arts
give props to
sophomore.
the whole
Rosie,
team,
the
though, you
whole
know?
team.
The
Yes.
whole team needs to get a
Whole
prop here
team.
because, if we don't have a practice squad to practice against
To
and
come in.
to get to where we were, you don't get there.
No.
Yep. And he had a deep bench. I mean, he really could have
Mhm.
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
pretty deep.
And you have to have that team mentality to have the players that understand that they're gonna practice hard, but probably never see the floor. I mean, that takes a very special mindset.
You're not
Oh, yeah.
kidding, and they were all such great cheerleaders too.
Yeah.
Like
As-
Yes, it was
Yeah.
wonderful.
But if you do
Yeah.
see the
Special
floor,
team.
you
Yes.
have to be ready.
Yes.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
You might, so it's that really hard situation where I
Yeah, I
might not
can't-
play, but if I
yeah.
do, boy, I better.
And
You
just
gotta
to
make
re-
sure you got your shoes tied tight.
Just to remember, Randy, too, we played with the boys' ball.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right. Now I see
And-
that's a smaller ball.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
It's,
was just a.
it's
That's just a-
it's a really small ball.
Okay, this is tough. But
That
yes,
was
I
just
forgot all
yeah, we
about
played with
that.
the
You
big
guys
ball.
played with
And
the
we didn't
bigger
have
ball.
the three-point
line.
Yeah,
no
no three-point
three-point
line.
line.
I know,
So
I would
we-
have had so many of them.
We did actually start a tradition that is pretty common in college basketball these days of practice players, that Jerry would bring in boys to practice
Yes.
against
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
He did.
It's like
And
they're
you
bigger
know-
than you are, they're faster than you are, they're
Yeah.
stronger than you are,
The
and
only
we
thing
said,
he
no, they
didn't-
aren't, we'll beat them.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
only
But,
thing
yeah.
you wouldn't let them do is jump, because
Yeah.
jumping, and that's how I coached too, because I'd practice against when I coached basketball. Come on guys, play against my players.
Yeah.
You only can hand your hands up, no jumping, because then you're gonna alter their shot,
Yeah.
and we don't want that.
Yeah.
We just want you to play defense and
Yeah.
play tough on them.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the team, it was 2 seniors, a lot of juniors and a lot of sophomores.
Mhm.
And we never felt like we were
There's cohesiveness.
very cohesive. It wasn't, you know, they
Real-
treated us all the same, everyone got along, you know, it never felt like I was, you know, being outshone. It was more about what is our role, how do we play as a team, and what do we need to do to win? And it was, I mean, that was a key thing.
You know what else was really cool though, was I think because we had that hometown paper,
Yeah,
those guys they got some press. I mean,
Yeah.
they
Yes,
talked
the
about what
pictures were
great
in the paper.
supporters they were, and I think the Star Tribune even did a story
Yeah.
on this great bench that Little
Yeah.
Falls has.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that was, you know, they were
I think had
they
a
were
big
there,
one,
they were
yeah.
cheering.
They called themselves.
they were our best cheerleaders
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So now we're at in the championship game, or even previous to the second game, you're at a hotel in Minneapolis. Probably maybe some of you for the first time that you had been in, you know, the metro, but I mean,
No,
what kind
because
of
we
experience?
went down to watch the state tournament in years.
That's
and
right,
a lot of
that's
times
right.
we tried to stay like in that
In
area,
that
so you could
area.
walk to the.
Okay,
So
yeah.
but as participants now, and you
Yeah.
have some skin in the game,
yeah.
you know, did any stories about hotel shenanigans or, you know,
You'll
things
get
we
that from the
don't want to
85
hear?
group. Yeah. No, we behaved.
I don't know. We were pretty serious.
Focused?
I mean, we
Yeah.
were there to
We're
win,
intense.
and it
Yeah.
was like you play your games, and then you can go screw around after that.
Right.
But you can always have fun, but you can't always.
You're here
play
for a
in
reason.
You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah,
always
we
play in
wanted-
a state tournament.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That was part of the discipline, I think.
And then
Yeah.
Big Jerry always had to keep us, like on that Saturday, he had to keep us, like, what are we gonna do all day? Cause we didn't play till 9 o'clock that night.
That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, he had to plan, when are we gonna go
Yes.
eat breakfast, when are we gonna go eat lunch?
Where are you gonna
But-
practice?
And when are we gonna eat supper, because we gotta get food in this, but it's gotta be so far in front of when we start practice and go over to the Met Center, which is right across, you know, and, I mean, he had a big job to keep 15 girls
And Olmsted and
and
Olmsted.
everybody, you know,
Occupied and
occupied for a whole
satisfied.
day,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we look at the picture, we see all the players. What kind of personalities, you know, who are the characters? Let's see here. Who were the serious ones? Who looked up to who? How about, you know, nicknames of all of them? And who was the best locker room singer? But we can hit all these in.
Oh
as
my
you-
gosh,
Let me,
me
as
now.
they're looking, let me start, cause I was nicknamed Spider Spillum, and it was because every time I jumped, my arms would flail this way, my legs would flail that way, and they called me Spider Spillum. And in the state championship, the sophomore team, I don't even know who it was, but the boys and the girls, a big group of folks, put together this trifold cardboard, and you would open it up, and there was a huge spider written on there with a purple uniform and 43 on it. And it was, I have it to this day. I still have it. And they would hold it up, and they would cheer, and I remember one of the broadcasters said, "Oh, there's a spider, number 43, I wonder who that is." I'm like, "Really? That was me, 43. The way he said it, it was so funny, but I still have that thing today, and it was, you know, not the best nickname, but it was something that resonated and kind of stayed with me and rallied, you know, my sophomore buddies, you know, around. So that was my nickname. And I have my big cardboard spider.
That's great.
Big Bird. Big Bird. Oh, yes. Well, my nickname was Big Bird, not after Larry Bird, because you know we didn't want to. So yeah, so as a freshman, we had to get a da 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 da. I don't know if I was gonna wear it, but I don't think I could squeeze into it. But anyhow, so Big Bird. But I don't know why I got it, because I guess I like to whistle.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Big Bird was my nickname.
Big Bird was tall and blonde.
Tall, blonde, and
You
Yeah,
like to whistle. You
I
would
like
whistle a
whistle.
lot.
Yeah, I
think
like
that
to
was part
whistle.
of it too.
so I don't know if I was a singer in the locker room.
I
but-
thought maybe it was because you got all those birdies on the golf course.
Oh, I wish. That was yesterday. Anyway.
My nickname was Irby, and that just comes from my last name, shortened up a little bit. So, and I think everybody in our family got that nickname. So I think that's how I got it.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
My nickname was.
On the floor.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
I do have it. My nickname was Killer.
Yep. Killer
Oh,
Keller.
Killer on defense.
Killer Keller, because
Killer
probably somebody split replaced the E with the I, but it was Killer Keller. And
Mhm.
Yep.
And I think everybody on the team had a nickname and our
Yes.
shooting shirts.
Yeah, the
That
shooting
was one of the
shirts.
things we wore every game.
Yep.
But the wild and crazy, I don't know, Barb Lane, she was kind of.
I would have said Barb. Barb was kind of
facial
the
expressions and, on the
and
bench.
the biggest. Yeah, she was
And
the.
And Mary Jo
Anita.
Philippi, or
Yeah.
Mary
Philippi.
Jo,
Yeah.
yes,
Mary Jo.
rah, rah.
I mean, and Marge, and Anita.
Yeah.
But those were the guys that were willing to be crazy, right? Which would be,
Yes.
now we'd call them the hype leader on the bench,
Right.
but they were the ones that
Yeah.
would, yeah.
Did you have the one that everybody focused to refocus around? I mean, you were the post player, but were you the
Rah, rah, rah. I
well
guess.
the glue,
No,
so to
Tina.
speak?
Oh,
It
I
was
think
Tina.
it was Tina.
Okay.
Tina, I'm
Tina
tagging
was
you.
the one that,
Mhm.
you know, Urban, you were a little bit more quiet and more.
We knew if
You
Tina
were-
was
you were-
mad.
you
we
were-
knew
you
it
were-
was
Well,
sad.
Playing ball.
Tina was the one that kept us on
I'm
task.
just thinking about that now, because that's funny, because I played pickup ball for a long time. I played
Still
till I
do.
was no, I quit when I was 60. But you have a pickup game, right, and some new guy comes in and he starts shooting all the time, right? And that's fun for the new guy, but not so much fun for the other person on the team. So they'd all look at me and I'd have to be the one to yell at them and stop shooting the ball so much, and let's
Share the
Well,
wealth.
it's kind of my game. I like to shoot. Well, you know what? We all like to shoot. So
Yeah.
But she,
So,
I think
yeah, I
Tina
guess-
was the one.
I
Yes.
would. I am. I could. I guess I do kind of
It was good.
scare
Well,
people a
had
little
fun.
bit.
Not
No,
scared,
but you
just
took charge in
leader.
a way
Which-
that we listened and that you got us back on task and it got us to focus in a way even that maybe sometimes Coach Cool couldn't. She was
Yeah.
our on the court leader,
Well, I
and when
could
we
do
were,
that,
before free
And
throw,
Peggy,
she was the one
'Cause you and I had
giving
that.
us the,
Yeah.
what
Every
we
team
need to
has
do.
that.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
team
we did,
has
and it
that.
was
Yeah.
Tina.
Yeah,
Calm
and
down.
Yeah.
the roles that.
Yeah.
How about the singing? Did we have any good
Oh
singers?
gosh, I couldn't sing.
Wasn't me. You
No.
Not
you
me.
have a good voice though, don't you?
Oh, yes, that's my day job.
So we'll just leave that one go.
Yeah, we had Andy the singer.
You know, I think
I don't think.
I
no.
think
How
we
about
were
Nick-
because
Nicker and the
Nicker,
bark?
little kitty.
Nicker,
Nicker and her
you,
bark.
you're asking sort of about this goofing around in the locker
We
room.
didn't have much.
And maybe it was my fault because I'm apparently mean, but
No.
we were. No, I'm
Serious.
joking. I'm joking. I know. It's
We
like
didn't goof around too much.
it's
in the
it's
locker
like
room.
we were really
Focus.
focused because we wanted to win, right?
I think the success shows
Or
that.
Shelley,
And-
she was
well,
funny.
and you can-
Shelley, all the
you
time.
can goof around when you're not there to play basketball, right? You can go have fun other times, but when you're at practice and when you're at a game, you're there to
And-
win. I
and-
think we were all very focused
And I
on
think
that.
one of
Yeah.
Coach Cool's quotes to us was, "How you practice is how you're gonna play."
That's exactly right. That is so true.
How you practice is how, what's gonna show up on the court. So if
Yes.
you're gonna goof around, it's gonna show up.
Yeah.
So he would always say, "Don't how you."
Yep, there's
so,
a time and a place.
Yeah.
So now you've won the state tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get back on the bus because of course we're not gonna spend another night in a
Oh,
hotel.
yes,
So
we
we
did.
said-
We
Oh, you
stayed.
did?
We
Yeah.
stayed. We
Stayed.
stayed.
Oh
We
my
didn't
goodness,
get done
I
till
thought the high school
midnight.
league kicked you out of
No,
the
we got
hotels.
one more,
No,
well, you know,
we-
you get done at like, it's
Midnight.
almost
Yeah,
midnight.
that's true.
It's-
And you
it's-
got 2 hour
It's a
drive.
safety issue driving.
And then
yeah,
we didn't get to
yeah.
come back until the Big Jer goes, well, we can't leave until a certain time. Well, why not? Well, we gotta go to church. So the Lutherans went with Mr. Haas to church, and then the people went to
Okay.
the other one. And then we went for breakfast, and then we had this, and no, we can't get going yet.
I know,
Because
we
he-
didn't
because
know.
he's
stalling
Yeah,
for
He's
this,
stalling
yeah.
for this,
Yeah.
and so we all get in the car. I remember coming, and we get just outside
Was
of
in
Royalton.
Mhm.
And a highway patrol's going south, and he turned his lights on and he went through the ditch and came in front of us. We are like, Big Jer, are you speeding? What'd you do now? We were giving him a hard time, and the guy goes, I just, and all that's all
You
the,
got an
the-
escort.
we got an escort in,
No, but I thought we had the fire truck.
and then
That's
we got
it, we
on
got
the
on the
fire
fire
truck
truck
at
and rode.
Jerry's supper club.
Oh, I
that
thought it
day.
was in, I
Yeah.
thought Royalton. Oh, no, because it
No.
was cold still.
Yeah,
We
it
had
was
hats
cold.
and
I had
gloves.
That's
and-
March,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
So then you got the fire
Jerry's
truck
We're
riding.
on the top of the fire truck
Jerry's
waving
supper
through
club.
town.
We had to get in on the
Yeah.
fire trucks,
Yeah.
but.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Then
we didn't
we
care.
were
We
giving,
weren't
I
cold.
was giving Big Jerry if he was speeding in the car because the highway patrol.
Yeah.
And what kind of city local reaction? I mean, did you have hundreds of
people
people
were-
The
yeah.
gym
all
was
over
packed.
Yes.
the,
Oh,
the
yeah.
city streets?
Yeah.
Yes, city
Very
streets, signs in your
Signs,
yard.
signs.
Then the
Yeah.
welcome home in the gym was just packed.
Yeah.
Packed.
They had it in there.
Yeah.
And even when before we left for, let's go back
Oh,
a
the
few
pep-
days,
yeah,
the pep
pep
rally to
fest.
leave, we had practice before it at 8 o'clock. And then we all got to go home and pack our suitcases because Vern Zarin was taking all our suitcases down to the hotel. So we just had to be, and then we had the pep rally, and we all left in front of, out the thing and went in front of Limburg School there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the whole Limburg School lined that whole line, and they gave us a rose. And my little brother gave me mine.
Oh, wow, that's great,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, the community was
Fantastic.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a special time, and we were talking in that last program about the seventies and the eighties, how special it was that the whole town came out. It was like the only show in town,
Yeah.
and it was fun to be a
Even
part
the
of that.
pictures, when you look in our scrapbooks today, they had pictures of office, people in the office, and they're sitting there, nobody's working in where bank they're in because they all were watching the TV and they're like, yeah!
Yeah.
You can hear them,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, you could see them making the gestures that they're cheering at the TV, so
Yeah.
things shut
A
down.
lot of good memories.
Well, in winding up here,
Yeah.
anything that you would like to share that, all of you have brought your notes, and all of you, is there anything that we didn't get to that you'd like to?
I think that the long friendships, long-standing friendships that we've made, we can get together and reminisce, and, I've golfed with Tina in Arizona, I've hung out with
California.
Peggy. California.
Leeanne
That was
always calls,
California. Palm
it's
Desert.
Bert's
Okay.
fault, it's always, she always calls it Arizona.
Palm Desert, so we golfed together a few years ago, seeing Bird and Peg all the time, and my 4 sophomore teammates, Marie, Karen, Shelley, and Kathleen, or Kathy Thielen at the time, we still communicate today, and we go on vacations and we hang out, and
That's great.
just, I think the bond that we shared over playing together and winning together, we went our separate ways out of college, but we came back together at a reunion, and things, you start right where you left off, and I think that's the family that we built, and I think that will stick with me for my whole life.
Mm-hmm. Priceless.
Yeah.
When people ask why athletics are important, I go back to what I heard indirectly from my 7th grade English teacher, who said, when she saw my interview on TV after the game, said, I can't believe that's the shy little kid I had in my English class in 7th grade.
Wow.
And so athletics really does, it gives people camaraderie, it gives them friendship, it gives them confidence, it gives them
Mhm.
poise. It does all those things for them.
Amen.
And that's why whenever somebody says, why are athletics important, I tell that story.
You bet.
Yes.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's the bottom line of it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
participation and learning how to deal with the people.
Yeah.
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 I
Yeah.
mean, working to be successful.
Yes.
You have to work together with
Yeah.
other people, and
Yes.
that translates everywhere.
Everywhere, everything we do.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I think it's important that we find out where every one of us is in our life right now. So after all of this time, where did you go? Who did you become?
Sure. So I after high school, I played 4 years for the North Dakota State Bison. Graduated with a degree in physics and math. Went to grad school also at North Dakota State. Got a PhD in physics, and then ended up teaching physics at the University of South Dakota in Vermilion. It's a town very much like Little Falls. It's a small town. It has a university, which makes it feel a little bit bigger. I worked there for almost 30 years. I retired about seven years ago. Retirement is great, by the way. So all of you young people watching this, put a little money away when you're young so you can pull the trigger when you're ready
That is
to.
so true.
And enjoying life. I kept playing. I played basketball, I look back on sort of the experience we had in high school and how much fun it was to play basketball. And I kept playing until my knees probably said, "Hey, we've had enough." So yeah.
I am here in Little Falls. I went to the University of North Dakota after college, or after high school, and I played golf in college for 3 years. Went to 2 national golf tournaments. Does my game show it now? No. Still love the game. Came back to Little Falls, and I think I've coached and officiated in different things for the last 40 years here in Little Falls, and still work at most of the sporting events, doing whether it's score clock, scorebook for girls basketball games, or working them. And I work at a golf course now. Keep myself busy.
Graduated. And then I went to New Mexico State for 2 years down in Las Cruces, where Julie Grimm was my roommate. Transferred, I left and I went to NDSU. So I was redshirted, but I got to play with Tina still then. That was
In practice.
Yes,
Yeah, you got
practice,
there
not
1 year too
games.
late. Yeah.
Yeah, got to run the Killers. And then stayed there and finished my career there. And then after that, who needs a real job? I went over to Salzburg, Austria, and got to play 2 years basketball overseas. And then I got hired in Little Falls at the middle school for Phi-Ed. So I taught and coached here for 32 years. I was blessed to coach with Big Jer. I remember when I came though, first after doing all that basketball, came back to get a job, and basketball only assistant 6th grade was open at that time.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, I'll wait my turn. So yeah, coached with Big Jer and hung out with Halstead, got to teach with all the greats. It was so fun, taught with my dad even. And so I have 32 years here. Now I've been retired for 3. And enjoying going to Arizona with my husband Kevin Silbernick and just hanging out with people and doing fun stuff like this.
Life is good.
Life is good.
Yep. So, funny enough, after high school, I also played basketball for 4 years at North Dakota State University, 2 years
Got
with
to play
Tina,
together.
2 years with Leeanne after she redshirted. Leeanne and I were fortunate enough to play in the national championship game for Division II our senior year.
Yes,
We
Dick
took
Vitale.
2nd in the nation, but we got to experience my last game and my college career in a championship game out in Massachusetts. And of all the parents, her grandma and grandpa went, and my mom and dad went, and there was only like Smykowski's and maybe one other family that went. But that's special times as
Incredible.
well. So I was in both high school and college getting into play in a national championship game. And then I had a couple children and was a stay-at-home mom, and then I've been in business, and right now I'm a chief information security officer. I'm a senior vice president for Freddie Mac out in Washington, D.C. So I'm out there at least once or twice a month, but get to work from home, and I have 7 amazing grandchildren, and so I get to spend a lot of time golfing, fishing, and just, hanging around my family, which is very important to me.
Well, very good. And home is the cities?
Yes, I live in
Yeah,
Minneapolis in
yeah.
the Twin
Okay.
Cities, Prior Lake, but yeah, my kids went to Prior Lake High School and they've gone to school. They were both athletes. My daughter played Division I volleyball. She made it to 10th grade in basketball. She could palm 2 men's basketballs, and she's 6 foot tall. But she ended up falling in love with volleyball, and so she got to play at Gardner-Webb University in South Carolina for 4 years, and that was a great experience for her. But just athletics is so important,
Yeah.
and to instill in our circle of influence is really important for us as women that got that opportunity.
Well, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. It's been a privilege and honor, I mean, to be amongst the royalty of Little
Yeah.
Falls basketball.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, this is gonna show up online, so I feel bad that I didn't mention my husband and son, so
Yeah.
I better throw that in there, because they're gonna be watching.
And
Yes.
Peggy, your son.
Yeah.
Peggy's got us.
Yeah, I have a son. He's an engineer down in the cities.
Yeah.
And Vozy,
Oh,
we should mention the other starting player, Mary Vosen-Bust. And let's see, she lives in St. Cloud, and
Yeah.
she works in the school system. And she had 2 sons also.
Yes, yes, and I have an amazing husband as well.
Oh, yes. Good golfer.
Well,
Yes, we have.
fantastic. Again, it's been an honor and a privilege, and we'll do it again in the next, what was this, 34?
44.
Let's hope we are.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to thank
We wanna
Caden
get the
again
whole
for
team
running
together
the
sometime,
television.
Right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
the,
you
for
so
the work.
much
and
for doing
Dave
this.
and
Bart,
Mr.
Jill,
Deal.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very much.
much.
Thank you.
Yay.
Our Little Falls, number 31, Peggy Urbanski. Number 43, Betty Spillum. Number 53, Leeanne Grosso. At guard, number 21, Tina Keller. Number 45, Mary Boson.